Welcome to the Letterman Podcast.
I got your big girl, she be calling me Papa, but Jordo, she ugly, she look like Chewbacca. I just gave her back because I didn't wanna. I'm spitting that fire like fireball jutsu. If you make me mad, I just might have to sue you, then beat your ass and then put you on YouTube. That's why you stink, cause you looking like doo-doo.
You know, we got a lot of positive reactions last week to the podcast, so this time we're gonna try something else. We're gonna have Jordan come on. Jordo's gonna come on and do a segment with us here in a little while, but first off, I just want to talk about the last weekend in sports. What a weekend it was, folks. Many people call it a standard tournament. It was not standard for me whatsoever. I have routinely succeeded in these tournaments. BFO brackets has always gone off really well for me. I've always done really well. Thank you for all those people, all the people who have joined. Good luck with whoever the victor will be. I'm still believing in my teams. However, Nevada, you sons of bitches, you have absolutely disappointed me. I believed in your alien asses so much, and you have just failed. You absolutely failed in every sense of the word. You had the experience, you had the size, you had me involved, and you had steroids. We were getting steroids into you. We were doing, everything was going the way that it should have gone, except you went out there and got beat by Florida. Listen to me. You got beat by Florida. Jorts. These people wear jorts, and you lost to that. That is pathetic. Listen, this just gives me a whole other reason to hate Florida. I now have two great reasons to hate Florida. One, for being kicked out of Everbank Field one year for giving a couple Florida fans a swirly. And now, for Florida beating my team that I believed was going to make it all the way to the championship in the first round. I decreed these people were going to make it to the finals. I decreed in front of the entire world, Nevada was going to do it. They had the right talent, they had the energy, they had the experience, and you just had to go out and beat them, didn't you? You stupid pieces of crap. You didn't even win the next round. You lost after that. Like, you could have at least gone on a run so we could have had 5 SEC teams in the Sweet 16, but no. You had to beat them and then lose. Listen, anytime you think you can depend on Florida, they will let you down. That's a pretty good rule to just walk around in life. In any kind of fandom that you are, you can always know Florida will let you down. They are the divorced mothers of the SEC. They are just disappointing. From Tim Tebow, Aaron Hernandez, to hell, they're just nothing but failed individuals. Anyways, the rest of the weekend went pretty well. It was a good weekend for gamblers. It's pretty important that this is the second year ever that we've had all the 1s, 2s, and 3 seeds make it through to the Sweet 16. I think that creates some really interesting matchups. In the East we have actually 1 through 4. The teams who should be the best teams and made it through actually made it through. It happened twice as well. It happened in the West. You have a 1 and a 4 and a 3 and a 2. So I guess they happened to get it right in the brackets. They've now done their job right twice. It's interesting that it's really only happened twice, but, Oregon really messed up a lot of people's brackets, but a lot of people are going to say that Auburn messed up the brackets, but honestly, they won the SC tournament. They probably should have been a 4 seed. They should have been a 4 seed instead of a 5. They should have been a 4 instead of a 5, and people may not want to accept that, but honestly, Kansas had an awful season. Why were they the 4? Clearly, Auburn absolutely spanked them up and down the floor when they played. So, to me, I would basically have said Auburn was the 4 and Kansas was really the 5. Kansas didn't even win their tournament. So, to me, again, Auburn really should have been the 4. They weren't. But besides that, Oregon's really the only one who snuck into where they're at, which is exciting. Granted, Duke pretty much snuck their way into this. They almost lost to a man by the name of Taco. How do you lose to someone named Taco? I understand he's 7'6" and significantly taller than the tallest player on Duke. That's the American Athletic Conference. He's got giant knees. All you got to do is take those bad boys out. He's not going to be able to play. I was really disappointed in that performance. I'm not sure Zion Williamson is for real. A lot of people are going to say that this game proved he was. To me, honestly, I would say this proved that he was not. He's not ready to be the next LeBron James. He's not ready to be the next king of the NBA because, well, clearly he struggled to deal with a man by the name of Taco. And if you don't think there's going to be a whole lot of tall people playing in the NBA, well, you should go watch an NBA game for the first time in your life, because that's pretty much all anybody is. Kevin Durant is basically Taco Fall as a guard. So good luck beating that, Zion Williamson. You better hope you're on the same team as Kevin Durant. I will say this, though. I was highly impressed by Auburn, by LSU, by Tennessee, and by Kentucky. No shockers there. The SEC really showed out. I will say, Tennessee's game against Iowa, if you look at the first half, you can understand why this team was the number one seed for a long time. You would watch that and go, how are they not a number one seed in this tournament? But honestly, if they didn't win that game, it would have been a heartbreaker, because that second half was awful. That second half was eye cancer. It made me literally poop my pants, partly out of laughing because I am a Georgia fan, so, it is enjoyable to watch Tennessee suck. As an SEC fan, I have to believe that these guys should really be pushing themselves. They went to overtime with a team they had down by 25 points. That is really, there's 6 white guys on that team who play significant minutes to the one with Tennessee. To me, that's just real rough. They made it through. They won. That's what SEC grind does for you. It prepares you for that push. Similar to LSU. LSU struggled. They had to fight. They had to really claw their way past Maryland, but they did. They got that win. Maryland's a good team. They gave LSU all they wanted. And there at the end, LSU did exactly what LSU and an SEC program should do, which is amazing because LSU did not have their head coach. And as a head coach, I always believe that I am what helps make my team as good as it is. I know that I am. I'm what makes the team better. But when you go out there and you're playing against guys who are highly successful athletes, and you have an assistant coach who was like 60 and 90 as the North Texas head coach, clearly this guy who's leading them now is not high caliber like Will Wade and many other SEC head coaches. And yet, he has got this team playing the right way in the tournament, and they are into the Sweet 16. 4 teams from the SEC into the Sweet 16. As an SEC fan, you probably can't ask for much more. Kentucky looked really strong. Wofford gave them all that they wanted. I'll give kudos to Wofford. That team is impressive. They've got a whole bunch of great players who are clearly underrated. They have the person who has made the most three-pointers in the history of the NCAA in Division I. He holds the record. And then he went 0 for 12 the next game, which is also the record for most misses in a single NCAA tournament game. So 2 games in a row, he's in the record books. That's kind of like having the record for having the widest penis, but also having the record for having the shortest penis. One does not necessarily make the other okay. One is clearly not as useful as the other. I would say living more in the average would have helped him out more. Kentucky wins. That's a good team, even without P.J. Washington, which they have to take on Houston this week. And if they, get past Houston, either North Carolina or Auburn, because those are both really good matchups. Auburn is peaking at the exact right time. I'll ask Jordo a couple questions about Auburn later on when he comes onto the program, just because he spent a lot of time in Alabama. He's a big Auburn fan, unfortunately. It's really the only thing I don't like about him. Well, one of the things I don't like about him. There's a couple other things. There's actually a lot of things I don't really like about Jordo. His music choices, some of his other life choices he's made. He doesn't always appreciate me as much as I think he should. Anyways, we'll deal more with that later on in the podcast. But the Sweet 16, I'm excited for what's coming up. Tennessee and Purdue, it should be a good game. If Tennessee can play their best basketball, they can beat anybody in the country. Unfortunately, sometimes they do not play their best basketball, and then they can get beat by anybody in the country. So we definitely need to see them show up a little bit more. I do believe Auburn is very capable of beating North Carolina. They're going to have to make shots. Their three-pointers are going to have to fall, and they're going to have to be willing to be physical. Defense on Kobe White is going to be really difficult, but I think they can do it. Auburn plays the right kind of game to be able to keep North Carolina running long enough to kind of wear some of their bigger guys out. I think Kentucky can handle Houston. Even though Houston has had a great season, they're a great team. Then LSU and Michigan State. Going to be an interesting matchup. Cassius Winston versus Tremont Waters will be a really fun matchup to watch. I'm really excited to get my eyes on that game because that's 2 high talent, high sports intellect point guards who can really run their team and can dominate at different points. Waters offers a little bit more range than I believe Winston does because of his ability to pass, where Winston is probably a better shooter and can stretch the floor a little bit more. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this weekend brings to us. Obviously, we still have Duke and Virginia Tech. Gonzaga and Florida State, Texas Tech and Michigan, Virginia and Oregon. But those SEC games, to me, those are the most intriguing, because what happens if you could get 4 SEC teams into the Elite Eight? That's a really exciting time as an SEC fan and as a general sports fan. This will be a fun weekend. Gamblers, do beware this weekend. You know, I'm sure Vegas will probably change their books a little bit. Gamble with your gut. That's how I tend to go. Next up, we're going to have Jordo come on the program. I'm excited. That's going to happen after this short little commercial break.
Today's show and Bryce Harper's career is brought to you by Turinabol, the go-to anabolic steroid from pro athletes to parents who just care about their children's future. Cut your recovery time in half with a guaranteed clean pee in 3 days or less, giving it all the safety of such workout classics as cocaine. Hello, my name is Sebastian Alharma. I invent Turinabol all the way back 1965. It's good drug, make you strong, make you man. I am proud today to announce that Turinabol is available all throughout Russia and in select gas station penis pills in America. Ask your local tracksuit wearer about Turinabol today.
So, Jordo, I brought you onto the podcast this time because I wanted to, it's March Madness, the NCAA tournament and everything that's going on, and, I wanted to get a new perspective. I offer up a lot of perspective from the place of being a coach, and what I really would like to offer up now is what the perspective of a player is when you're going through a tournament like this, and there's all the emotion and all the different teams, and you're bouncing from one team to the next very quickly and things like that. How do you, as a player, prepare your body, your mind, and your spirit to deal with that kind of stress?
First off, Coach, I'd like to thank you for having me on the show today. Really appreciate it. We're out here putting the work in. And most people do not know this, but basketball was my first sport.
Really?
And basketball is my favorite sport. I was never good at it. But I ended up playing varsity a couple of years in high school, at Hopeville High School. Shout out Bulldogs. And what an athlete goes through mentally is like none other when it comes to these tournament settings. There's a sense of camaraderie that's being built. There's a passion that's bubbled up the entire season. And then now you have teams like the Auburn Tigers hitting their streak as they're playing the best basketball they have all season at the right time. And you get the whole cities behind you. And now you're moving to a point where it's a full team effort. You can't come into these things playing 5 players. It's got to be 8, 9, 10 players being able to contribute consistently in order to be able to pull through, because it does tire your legs out, Coach.
That's a good point to say that it is a tiring moment. I mean, you've pushed through an entire season, and then you get to these tournaments at the end of the season, and so you've been banged up, you've been dealing with injuries, different things like that. Let me ask you, Jordan, what would you say is the most taxing moment of a tournament in this situation? Like, what is the thing above everything else that really can wear down the human body?
It's those moments between games where you're not sure whether to order more pizza or jerk off.
I feel that. I understand that. And what about mentally? What really wears you down there?
Mentally, it's the long nights. It's the travel to the game. It's the travel to the stadiums. It's, it really wears down on you, especially being away from your city, being away from your natural habitat, and especially the sleep cycles. Now, I've traveled all over the world, and when I go from here to Europe, I don't get jet lag. If I go cross country, that's when the jet lag really kicks in.
Really?
And so now we're being forced to be out of our elements into situations that can really stretch us as individuals, and it really forces us to pull together in order to find the path to victory.
Would you say that some of the people that you've played with, are they still close to you, or have you really lost touch with those players?
Well, Charles Barkley was probably my favorite coach. He coached us in the AAU games. He probably made the biggest impact in my life. If it wasn't for him and Shaquille O'Neal, I wouldn't be half the player that I was.
I'm gonna hold you right there, Jordo. I'm sure this is an interesting story, but you just said that your favorite coach of all time is Charles Barkley?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He coached me in AAU.
Yeah, I don't really care where he coached you, Jordo. You just said he was your favorite coach.
Well,
you're on my podcast at this moment, and I am your coach. I'm like your father, Jordo. I have brought you out of child welfare problems. And you're going to tell me Charles Barkley is your favorite coach?
Favorite basketball coach.
That doesn't save this, Jordo. Listen, I'll put together a basketball league and take Charles Barkley out of this running just to fuck Charles Barkley up. You're telling me you have another man in your life who's important besides me?
Coach, there's no one more important than you.
I like to hear that, Jordan. Thank you. So, Jordo, you said you really built a camaraderie with people that you go through these tournaments with. Yeah. Is there anyone in particular that you have really found a deep connection with that's prolonged to this point?
Player or coach?
We'll start with player. We'll go with players first.
Player. There was this guy a couple years ago, and we met at this tournament in Charlotte. I think his name was Carmelo Anthony or Carmel, somewhere in there. He was really great. Plays in New York. And he is the one that taught me how to shoot three-pointers.
Oh, okay.
And then so since then, we've been able to stay in contact. And he told me that the NBA is a bunch of bullshit and the real games happen on the streets.
How involved were you in these street ball games? Were you really, a major part of this? Were you really playing second string? Like, where were you in the lineups for some of these games?
Coach, I've been balling since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. I'm not going to lie. And coming up, I was the only kid in the neighborhood that could afford a basketball. So they had to let me play, or else I would take the basketball and go home.
So you literally took your ball and went home if they didn't let you play?
Well, they let me play. It was the mean streets of Costa Rica where they taught me a lot. They taught me how to steal basketball from other people.
Right.
And how to communicate without having to learn how to speak their language.
I was about to ask, so you live in Costa Rica. Do you speak a second language, Jordan? We could start using that in our play calling.
That's true.
In, hiding our play calls behind foreign languages that we could speak very clearly.
Well, Coach, I do speak Pidgin.
That's probably not super useful. Jordo, is that something you picked up in your time as a child soldier? Is that how you learned to communicate in the military?
It's Costa Rican. It's Costa Rican dialect of Pidgin.
I'm not really sure where to go from there, Jordo. I'm not quite sure how to focus Pidgin talk into the football.
How are you doing out here? You've been out in California. I guess we last saw each other a month or two ago, and you've been making your rounds out here in the coaching clinics. What's that been like for you?
I didn't realize I was going to be questioned on my own podcast. This is kind of nice. Switch roles up on me, Jordo. Well, it's been good. We've really bounced between different places. The reason I flew Jordo out here because there's a couple collegiate programs. I can't name them precisely. Jordo, a lot of the scouts have said that you are not the prototypical NFL quarterback in appearance. You're not as tall. You're a little bit chubbier. So I guess what I would ask you is, who are you really trying to model your quarterbacking game after?
Coach, if I had to pick a couple players to make a baby, I would pick Jared Lorenzen, the former standout quarterback from University of Kentucky and also the commissioner of the Ultimate Indoor Football League. And if him and Barry Sanders had a baby, and then that baby had a baby with John C. Reilly, that would be someone that I would kind of, be like. And there's no guarantee that you guys are going to have the first pick. Now, you guys have my heart, but what are you guys going to do to secure me?
There are negotiations that are in motion. I began laying some of those down last week at the Beef O'Brady's. I have made several threats. I have made several bribes. I have some demands with those bribes that also will secure some other O-linemen and some things like that.
I definitely could appreciate you taking the initiative to make sure that we have another chance to make a run together, Coach.
Listen, Jordo, I take a lot of credit for discovering you at that gas station. Jordo, I brought you into this. I really did. And so I'm not going to go into the next season without you on my team. And I have made it pretty damn clear to every coach who has an ability to have a first round, have that pick above me. I'm really shooting to get the first pick overall. I'm just going to let everyone know that's what I want. Steve, if you're listening to this, I will burn your house down and you will have to live in that trailer that you call a horse barn, okay? I will literally burn your house to the ground if you do not give me the first pick. Also, say hi to Terry for me.
Coach, I heard, now this is just a rumor that I'm going to ask you about. Now, I heard a rumor that Tanner wasn't going to be playing any more ball because he decided he wanted to be a tap dancer. Now, I knew that your son would not want to be a tap dancer, but I just wanted to ask the horse his mouth.
Listen, Tanner's mother is an awful woman. I really have nothing else to say. She's an awful human being. She tried to get Tanner into dance lessons. She claimed it was to work on his footwork and his agility skills. I do not believe it. I believe she was trying to undermine my ability to connect with him on the field and to have him as a part of my life. She really was trying to make me love him less. What players have you built a special connection with this last year? Was there anyone on the team that you really felt deeply connected to and have been able to stay in contact with as the season's been over?
Fernando was pretty impactful in my journey. Now, this little kid coming from Brazil, that kid can kick a football. He really can. I saw him kick an uncontested 72-yard field goal last week. And so he's been really helping me with my leg workouts so I can help carry this big upper body. Now, I know people are saying I got to lose some weight, and I get it. But big bodies make strong legs. And so, yeah, Fernando, man. Shout out to my man, Fernando. He's like Seal. He only has one name. You know that because you drafted him.
That's right. Jordo, are there players, as we get closer to the draft, are there players that you believe that if we put them in the locker room, they're going to be toxic to the environment? Like, who should we avoid in the draft? And who are other players that, you'd like to see return, or from other teams that you'd really like to see us obtain?
I really don't think you can use another pick on Piccolo kid just because, he is a disruption in the locker room and tends to stay hurt without even really getting hit. He's just like glass. And there's no room for glass in our league, Coach. He's always got a new sling on. He just wants to sit on the sidelines and talk shit.
What do you feel about those two new rule changes of no more 3-point stance and got to have a personal trainer on the team?
Coach, I really don't have any issue with making safety a top concern. I think it's a huge shift from previous years. Last year was actually the first time we didn't have any deaths throughout the season, and
I count as a negative.
Well, Coach, I think that we got to get these kids into high school, at least, Can't have them dying at our, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. Now, am I against taking away the 3-point stance? I think it's some pussyfooting around. But I think, like I said, keeping the player's safety as the top concern would probably be a decent priority to have.
Jordo, that breaks my heart to hear you say that. Because safety is probably my lowest concern of all of my coach. I mean, number one is winning. Number two is domination. And number three is, victory.
But what happens if you don't have enough players to walk you over that line to victory, Coach?
Listen, I understand. Listen, one of the two things is semi-effective. Bringing on a trainer, I'm not completely against that idea. That somewhat makes sense because we can have people understand how to stay healthy. They can help get players back from injuries and things like that. That's not a problem. My problem is we're doing both of these things. So no 3-point stance and a trainer seems to be like putting a hat on a hat. See, we have a nation that values safety over liberty, but we shall have neither. That was by Ben Franklin. You're welcome.
Do you have a favorite Newbert story? Because it's the perfect time.
There was one day, so I was with Newbert, and we were in a city not in Arkansas. That's how Newbert would say it. This is how Newbert would tell the story. This is how Coach Newbert would tell this story, so I have to tell it like him.
Newbert would say it.
So, we're in a city not in Arkansas, and we came across this guy who had no legs. He was in a wheelchair, and I found out that this guy, all he did was go around and challenge people to races. He would bet them that he could beat them in a race. And Newbert is a gambling man already. So when you come up to him and go, I bet you can pretty much guarantee Newbert's going to do whatever you've bet him he cannot do. Like, this man had no legs. Newbert looked at him and thought,
where did they stop?
I've got this.
Where did they stop? Like below the knee? Or
a little bit above the knee, but below, it was like his pants still covered up. Like a little leg came out past the shorts, but that was really it. Like if he had worn pants, he'd have to tie them up pretty high. But he's in a wheelchair, and he challenges Newbert to a race. Newbert's feeling pretty confident about a no-legged man not being able to beat him in a race, obviously. So they decide how far they're going to run. They get set up, and this man smoked Newbert's ass up and down. I mean, it was like 2 chains. I mean, the man had 2 wheels, and he just burned Newbert all day. And Newbert's a big fella, but he's also got long legs, so you figure he could move pretty fast. And Newbert's not slow, but this man, what we came to find out was, as we were in this city, not in Arkansas, that this guy used to be a professional track runner, and they called him the Runner. That's what they love to call him in the city. That's how good he was. Everybody just knew him as the Runner. Now, again, this wasn't in Arkansas, but it seems like something they would do. Small town that we were in, and this man apparently they stopped calling him the Runner, obviously, because what happened was he got they changed his name to the Road Runner because he was running on the road one day and he got run over by a car.
I'm sorry to laugh, Coach.
No, it's funny. It's tragic, but it's also funny. And when he got hit, obviously he had a lot of injuries, a lot of problems, and they had to amputate his legs. And this dude, I mean, this is what he used to do. He'd go and challenge people to races. He'd beat them, win money. That's how he made. That was his living.
Was it an electric wheelchair, or he did it all by hand?
No, so it was all by hand.
Wow.
And so when he could no longer challenge people to races with his legs, he didn't really know another way to make a living. So he just figured he'd get really strong at rolling this wheelchair and be able to outrun people in a wheelchair, which turned out he's made twice as much money doing that because people are more willing to lay down more money to race a wheelchair man than they were to race a man with 2 legs.
Oh, wow.
So that moment was pretty funny because after that, Newbert got really upset and started throwing things, and he smashed a couple windows of some cars and was really pissed. But then this guy said he'd take us out for drinks, and that calms Newbert down real quick, really settles him down, like a baby to milk. Newbert took to that beer and whiskey that we had in that bar that night, and now they have a close friendship. Newbert has become really emotionally invested in this young man, and now he's working with him and training him to try and get him into the Paralympics.
Do you think he could be our trainer?
We had that spinning in our idea. Newbert actually, I like this idea a lot. He doesn't know a lot about health, but he's really good at, he's very fast, all that stuff. I'm thinking I can bring him in this season and let him kind of be the pace setter for our laps when we're running laps. Like in NASCAR, the pace setting car, he can be the pace setter for all of y'all to have to run behind. And if he starts lapping people, we'll just run more laps and we'll work out more. And if he laps you, you got to go and do, tricks through the cottonmouth infested string behind the field. But that's probably one of my favorite Newbert stories is that discovery of that relationship, because it's very sweet and emotional. They've really created a deep emotional connection, and a lot of times Newbert stories devolve into fist fights,
debauchery,
much debauchery. But this one really, you see the heart that Newbert has and the emotion. Sometimes he picks this guy up as a backpack and carries him around this way so the guy can get a better angle and see from a better view, which allows them to go and bet more people that this guy cannot run them. Also, Newbert started acting like a hype man for him sometimes. They go to clubs and they'll start challenging like bouncers and people and stuff to fights. And this dude's vicious because, you can imagine how strong he is whirling on a wheelchair. He can really take a couple bouncers out. It's pretty impressive what he can do as a fighter. Yeah, he starts climbing on him and choking him out. It's really impressive. No, he's got nothing to lose. He's already lost his leg, so at this point, he's pretty much just living life on every day's dime.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Coach.
Yeah. Jordo, as we're kind of wrapping up the podcast and things, I just here's what I want to ask you. We're out here in Southern California. It's beautiful weather. It's not North Georgia weather, but it's pretty nice. Here's what I have to ask you. What is it that you are about to head out and do? We got one more coaches clinic today, and then we pretty much got a couple of days off before that award show coming up, and we got another
clinic next week, don't we?
Yeah, we have one next week, and we've got another meeting with an NFL scout or two next week. But we've got a couple off days here and there. What would you like to get taken care of while we're out here in Southern California?
I would like to go do one of those tours where you ride those buses, those vans that have the open air.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see where everyone lives. I just want to know where you live. But
not in a creepy way, of course. You're not trying to stalk people. It's just more interesting to know.
No, I just want to see how they live.
How the other side lives.
Yeah, who's to say I'm not just walking around and I run into Zach Galifianakis, and I'm like, yo, Zach, hey.
Deep. That's a really emotional conversation you're having with Zach Galifianakis.
He would just get it. That's all that would need to be said. His soul will be talking to my soul. But I also have a couple gigs planned out here. Some of you guys might not know when I'm not slinging a football. I'm a touring drum and bass DJ. By touring, I mean I just play wherever I'm at. They don't really book me unless I show up to the cities. But we're having fun doing this cross-country road trip with Coach here. I'm just going to find the nightlife. I'm going to see where the seedy, grimy underbelly of Los Angeles has to offer. What about you, Coach?
Well, I am going to go and try and take a piss on a couple of college football fields. I'm not going to lie to you. It's been a dream to be able to pee on a couple of the Californian teams' football fields. I might go see I might even go on a little coastal drive up the Pacific Coast Highway to, I've heard there's some good views of the Pacific Ocean. I don't know. I've never took a pee in that either, so I might do that. Take a little skinny dip. I didn't bring swim trunks, so I'll have to go skinny. So,
You think I could go skinny dipping, Coach?
Jordan, that's weird. I don't want to go skinny dipping with you, Jordo. I'm just getting in to take a little leak and get back out. All right. I don't need to go and have an experience with you. I'm getting weird around here, Jordan. This is why we're wrapping up this podcast. You're taking things to whole new levels I'm just not ready to be at.
We'll get you there, Coach.
I hope not. But folks, we'll talk again soon. I'll be putting out another podcast. I'm gonna try and sneak a microphone into prison here in the next few weeks, to be able to have a little snippet of my defensive coordinator, my rock and my stalwart arrow to guide me. My northern light, my North Star. I'm gonna try and get him to be able to speak to you all. It's been time for you all to hear from him. So I'm gonna do what I can to get a mic into him in the next few weeks. I get another visitation here pretty soon.
They can bake it into a cake. Yeah, Coach, I've been to prison. I was eating a lot of cakes.
Eating a lot of something. Anyways, folks, this is getting out of hand. We can't do this any longer. But
I love you, Mom.
Try to be more like me. I do apologize to the University of Georgia football program. I did incite a riot at a bar the other day, and unfortunately 2 University of Georgia football players got caught up in that and were arrested. I apologize to all of you Bulldogs fans out there. I'm really sorry, but I will not offer any kind of repercussions. They made their choices and their decisions.
It's almost like you got them locked up in the dog pound.
Jordo, you are a child sometimes. You are a 7-year-old. You act like your age. You know that? And that's really shameful. I thought you'd be more mature than this. Oh, Jordo. Anyways, folks, tune in next time so you can become more like me. That's really the whole point of this, is me to share my thoughts. You become more like I am. There's that. Let's go, dogs.